Hey, what's up everybody? It's Christian with Reaper Disc, and today I'm going to bring a short little video to you guys on some of the more common mistakes I see people making out on the course when trying to throw a forehand. Now, this isn't going to be an end-all be-all tutorial on how to throw a forehand, and this isn't going to be the magical fix to literally everything to fix your game. I'm sorry, that genie is in a different bottle. This is just going to help if you're doing some of these bigger mistakes that I see very commonly and what you might start being able to do to work on them. So, first and foremost, this is the biggest thing I see people do, is rolling the wrist over. And if you're finding that you're turning over even the most overstable discs, and you constantly find yourself walking in the shop saying, I need the most overstable destroyer, I need the most overstable boss or force that you possibly have because I've got so much power on my forehand that I can't keep anything from turning over. Man, I'm turning juggernauts over. One, you're lying. Let's just be perfectly honest, you're lying to yourself. That is bad form, and that is turning your wrist over or rolling it over. Now, once you start getting into a lot better form with forehands, you're going to start using a more of like a wrist hinge instead of like a little bit of a flick. But until you really master angles, even that wrist hinge will turn into a rolled over shot. Now, the key here is whenever I'm teaching someone how to forehand for the first time, until they get a feel for it, I tell them to keep their palm to the sky. That's at least going to allow them to start working on the motion. That way they can get the arm motion, the hand motion, and their release point down. And it's going to help with those more touchy approach shots and, you know, those like putter or mid-range flick shots and things like that that don't need a lot of power. You're not really going to get distance doing this, but it's going to start helping you get the arm motion down long enough to where you can start working on angles and then transition into a little more of that wrist hinge that's going to get you a little more power and distance. So I'll show you what rolling your wrist looks like. When you come through with a shot, you're really trying to wrench into it, and you're coming in, and right about here is where your lead shoulder, right there. So your lead shoulder pointing to your target is going to dip. And whenever you dip, it feels like you're going from here and you're going to be swinging a baseball bat or a tennis racket or something like that. And it morphs into a baseball throw or even a football throw. And that happens whenever that lead shoulder dips. And that's because you're thinking too much about power. Instead of focusing on proper angle, keeping the lines and everything like your shoulders lined up a little better, you're really trying to get into it. That lead shoulder dips, and then this hand comes over. Once you're here, unless you're intending to do this and you're intentionally trying to throw a forehand roller or a super overstable flex shot or a cut roller on purpose, here's where all your disappointment starts. Because right here, there's nothing you can do to get this throw back. Once you're here, it happens. The natural range and motion of the body carries the hand over to where it does that. And then the palm is facing all the way down or even back and away from your body a little bit. And you just twist that wrist all the way over and you roll the shot. There's nowhere for the disc to go except down and onto a roller angle straight into the ground. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing the disc is going to do about that. Once you're here, you've lost that throw. And we need to keep you from getting to here. So you're going to start standing a little straighter and focus on keeping this lead shoulder up, the trail shoulder, which is going to be your throwing arm, down a little bit and coming low and through. Now, bear in mind, this isn't going to get you a lot of distance. This is more or less just to start fixing the form, and then you can tweak things like your grip, like that wrist hinge, a little later to start getting you distance. This is just to start to put a band-aid on the issue, that way you can start fixing it. So I'll show you this way first. And to try to keep from throwing it in a bean field, I'll throw something slow. But I'm gonna take a step back and I'm gonna show you throwing from here how you're going to keep that lead shoulder up and your throwing shoulder down slightly. That way you don't come over top of it. Now notice, even then, I had a wrist hinge. My palm didn't stay completely up. That's just because, you know, I've been working on this form for a while, and that's just naturally how mine flows through with that wrist hinge. But even then, my wrist stays like this. It stays straight up and down. It never rolls over. That's whenever you start getting into the rollers, whether intentional or not. Now there is a way you can manipulate that to your advantage, but unless you're intending to do it, let's try to get rid of it. Now I'll go that way you can see it from this angle. Okay, so I'm gonna be throwing straight that way, keeping the lead shoulder up, the throw shoulder down a little bit, and just snapping through, trying to keep from coming over top the disc. Now, was that the prettiest throw in the world? Absolutely not. Was that incredibly far? No, it wasn't. But that is how you start to fix getting over top the disc. All right, sorry about the small interruption. There was a little bit of a disturbance over nearby. Anyway, so another way that you can start keeping away from turning it over is getting a really neutral putter. This is actually a pretty understable putter, and it can be done. I used to actually forehand my Sonic a lot of times for very specific shots. So yes, you can do it with something even as understable as a Sonic. Work on keeping the palm up and the nose up, and this is actually going to help you out with some of those shorter distance approach shots as well. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of point this direction a little bit and just work on a little standstill hover shot with the nose up. And that's going to also work on reinforcing keeping that palm up and not coming over. Yeah, right there will work. And if you need to start fixing your forehand issues with just doing that, standing still with a putter and just working on that little palm up delivery, that will work until you start building a little better base. But that's the sort of thing you start with. Start slow, start low power, start low distance. That way you can start building, and don't just try to fix it overnight, because you're only going to exacerbate your problems. It's going to be frustrating, and it's going to make you not want to ever do it. So the next big thing that I see people doing is keeping your arm too far out or way too far in. And there is a happy medium here with a forehand. A lot of people I see trying to really come out and throw it like this, especially when they're beginning. Now, if you're stretching out and trying to like flick around a tree, that's one thing. But a lot of times people are really coming in with their arm way outstretched, trying to put a ton of force into it, or they're coming in with everything pinched off. You need to find a happy medium here, and I'll grab a couple discs. So with that, well, let's not do that one. With that is you don't necessarily want your elbow pinned like to your hip bone right there, but you don't want it like way out. You want kind of like the midsection of your tricep to be tucked kind of up against your ribs, but without your elbow actually jamming into your hip and into your side. So about right here is going to come through nicely. Leaning back just a little bit might help, because like I said, when you start dipping over, it's when you start really leaning over and into it. There are ways that you can start changing your form to be able to lean over into the throw and get good power shots, but those are really advanced techniques. And if you're watching this video, you're trying to fix some form, so I suggest you not try to start doing that yet. Work on fixing the form first and then build on the foundation. So let's take a look at the elbow position as I do this one. I'm going to shoot these ones straight back out that way, so you have a really good look at my elbow and where it's coming through in relation to my body. So again, on that one, I started off, whenever I came back, of course, you know, my arm's coming back a little bit. And then when I come through, I don't lean way out here, but I also don't jam everything up. It kind of comes back to a nice even spot where the bottom of my tricep is starting to touch kind of like in my ribs area, and then just slowly comes all the way through. And we'll do it one more time. And those two forehands weren't incredibly far, but they were really smooth. They felt good coming out. Nothing felt like it was pulling or pinching, and that's the big thing. A lot of people who get hurt playing disc golf or strain themselves are really trying to overdo forehands. Don't do that. Be smart and take care of your body. That way you can keep playing for longer. Now, those are just a couple of the big mistakes that I see people making whenever it comes down to you know, throwing forehands, and those are a couple things of how you might be able to start fixing them. Like I said, this isn't the end-all be-all. This isn't the magic fix that's going to, you know, make you start throwing forehands like Paul Macbeth overnight. It's just not going to happen. I can't do that for you. I'm sorry. However, these tips are going to help you start getting those a little more under control and being able to start getting some better form. That way you can actually build upon that and start being able to throw those big, powerful forehand shots or really super accurate forehand shots that are going exactly where you want them to every time, instead of just trying to throw and hope it ends up where you want it. So, did these tips help you guys? Drop me a comment and let me know. If you want to see more breakdowns or more things about you know, form issues that you're having and want to know how to fix, again, drop a comment. That is the best way to let us know what you want to see here on the channel. Click the link in the description if you want to go over to reaperdisc.com. That way you can find your next forehand disc. Trust me, there are plenty there to choose from. I've got more than a few in my bag that I pull out that came from there, and yeah, there's something for everyone. Give it a try, give it a look. I'm sure you'll find something you want. Follow us on social media at Reaper Disc so you can keep up to date with all of the updates from the shop, and click the subscribe button here on the channel so you know when we drop new content. I hope this helped everyone. Again, I'm Christian with Reaper Discs, and I'll see you guys in the next video.